Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Pitch Room Africa. I'm super excited to be here again to be speaking with you. And always, I'm so excited to be here to hear the voice of my co host, Esther. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Siri. How about you? How are you doing?
I am well. I am well. I'm doing fine. For everybody listening, today is an exciting time. We are in an exciting
Mm.
period. We are joined by someone who said, and I quote, he started his business because he could. And here's one thing that is very interesting. He's trying to solve one of the most challenging problem in the whole world. It's not only an African problem, it is a problem that is everywhere. We will not talk about the problem, but let's introduce him. Sahil, founder of Shiprazor. Welcome to the Picture of Africa. How are you feeling?
Thank you, Sidi. Really appreciate the introduction and sharing the basic insights. I'm feeling really good. It's such a nice weather in Johannesburg. I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa at this moment. I'm based in Cape Town, but traveled for business in Johannesburg. And last 2 days been really bad weather. Today is really sunny and nice. So I'm glad we're meeting today with a happy and nice mood. So thank you for having me, and I'm really excited for this whole conversation.
No, thank you very much for being here. Let me ask you a question before we even take this on the road because it's going to be super exciting. You've been in the industry for quite some time. In fact, you have a background in logistics from family. You have the technical expertise, and you ask yourself, why not? Why, like, because you could. In fact, that's what you said when I asked you, why did you start? You said it's not impersonal. You started because you could. Tell us a little bit about that.
This is interesting. So I mean the if you think that those two line, because I could have a lot of background and the experience behind it, right? So the could is basically a capability, and that capability comes from the existing experience of last so many years of hustling. So like if I it basically comes back to my background, like and the way I started my journey. So I started my professional journey by doing computer science engineering, right? And that was my first degree, and I ended up doing three more degrees, three different masters, but that's how I started it. And that engineering literally gave me the problem solving skills, and that was where I started my journey with. But the engineers does have a problem, that they are very good at problem solving, but they don't understand where the problem is coming from, the source of problem, the which is people, which all of us are societies. And that's where they find, like, where the startups and business comes in, of understanding, okay, why there is a problem, why there is what kind of solution it needs to be. And that's where my journey started, by working on a first startup. So throughout my life I only worked with startup and never worked with a corporate. So I don't even know how a big corporate functions properly, but I do know how a startup hustles a lot. So first startup I worked with was a logistics startup back in India, and it was basically to connect carrier owners who have trucks and people who need trucks. And that's how I started my journey. And it was very easy. Like, I have, like, we had 12 cousins back in my family, and almost all of them, maybe 11 of us, are in logistics. So I think when we grew up, even when we were kids, we were talking about, because our parents and their parents, and we're talking about random trucks and sitting down in the truck and doing all of that. So I think there's a lot of already inbuilt things. Okay, we're talking to drivers since we were, like, truck drivers since we were kids. He would take us around, and so a lot of, it was easy. Now it becomes easy for us because we have seen trucks since we were kids. And then after that startup, I wanted to move to a another startup. Then I moved to a healthcare startup. So when I joined a healthcare, I managed around 120 people in my department. And that was also all of whole supply chain. It was, the healthcare startup was healthcare at home. So a blood test guy has to come to your house, take the blood samples, go back, all of that whole process, right? So it is again the whole supply chain. So somehow my life is just supply chain and logistics a lot. And then I did my own startup, which was also a supply chain, and like then moved to South Africa in 2018.
Mhm.
18 I came first time through via honeymoon. So like my wife and I decided, okay, let's go for honeymoon to South Africa, and we loved it so much we decided to stay. And in 2020, I did my MBA from University of Cape Town, and that opened doors for me in the whole Africa perspective regarding like access to the people, access to the uh, ecosystem and all of that. And that's where my journey started. I became a VC that gave me exposure to startup ecosystem and Africa. And then I there was a point in my life where I had to decide, okay, whether I want to continue with being a VC or come back to the roots of entrepreneurship. And that's how I started my journey.
So it's quite interesting that you mentioned that, because I was going to quiz you a little bit on that side. So you switched from being a VC, someone who a lot of entrepreneurs chase after for money, to becoming an operator yourself. How does that switch feels like? Because most times, before you answer that, most times we've seen the reverse happen. So an operator turn investor, but then initially you were an operator, then you become an investor, and then now you're back to being an operator. How does that feel? And how are you managing that, especially in this current market dynamics?
Well, a lot of things I'm going to say can be controversial, so I will try to be
No,
less
please, please.
as less controversial as possible. So, uh,
As controversial as possible.
Let's
so like
hear some controversy, Sahil.
so like I
Yes, please.
so like I really enjoy being an operator. I like being an operator. It means you're building something, and that gives the energy, and money becomes the output. So like when I did it, when I said I could, like the ability to do something gives me so much energy. The ability to build something gives me so much energy, and then the money part of it should always be, in my opinion, be an output, right? The focus is on doing, and then whatever the result come out from it is the output which we'll all have to reap, right? There's a cause and effect. So the cause, if you create a cause, you will have an effect, and effect is the money. It's simple, and changing people's life, right? So very simple. So I really enjoy personally that dynamics. But like if I tell someone part of my VC life, so like when I was a VC, so 2021, I was a speaker maybe on more than 10, 15 events. So I had this, those name cards when you go to an event.
Yeah.
So I was cleaning my house one day, and then realized I have 15, 20 like in my cupboard. Some I did throw it, some I didn't throw it. And then from last year I've been an entrepreneur, and I checked if there is a name card. I had zero name card. I was really thinking that I should maybe take a picture and create it like life of a VC. So many name cards. You're always out, and life of an entrepreneur. You're basically sitting down like, and then and doing the work. And like what does it tell? It tells that the grinding, the grit, the hustle which is needed in an entrepreneur is not there in the VC. And also what I've observed is that any ecosystem around the world, whenever there's a rise of VC ecosystem early stage, especially the juniors, they forget that it's not their money. They have raised money from someone else, but they behave in the market that it's their money. And they start giving advices. They come from like fintech background, the banking background, or like, and they know nothing about the tech businesses, and they're investing in tech businesses and then giving the advices. So like those things are quite sad in the VC ecosystem, which I've observed. Like you should not give. So I think there should be a team. There should be a perfect in the VC. There should be a perfect set of skills. Okay, there's a technical person, there's a financial person, there's a entrepreneur, and then combining, you're doing it.
So
Yeah.
so so let's push on that a little bit. Let's push on that a
Uh-huh.
little bit. Um, because usually the best type of VCs are those that have actually been operators, because then the VC, well, my understanding of how a VC should operate outside, and one of the reasons, if you look at historical evidence of this, the Silicon Valley days and all of those things, when it actually started gaining momentum, it was more focused about mentorship rather than just the money. Today, the power rule doesn't allow that to happen so much. Would you say that's a fair assessment? Would you say VC needs to provide more mentorship, hands-on mentorship, access to market, than just give people the money and then and just ask for monthly updates?
I think most of them can't, because in the end they are humans and they get consumed into the ego. And whenever you're consumed in the ego, you will not think. So, when is the what is the best way to provide is when you are uh, the most humble and the humility is there, right? So that is the best way for any VC or any mentor to really provide to a mentor. So like, if you, for example, if you are a VC, junior, medium level manager, associate, or whatever, you go to a meeting with a founder, right? That founder is thinking, sleeping with dreams, and doing 24/7 that particular idea or that particular solution that he's working on, right? Of course, a VC have seen multiple different solutions, but that, so when VC comes, he comes with the mindset of, okay, I will probably tell him five things. The VC does not come, or that junior person usually does not come with the mindset of, okay, I would want to learn something from this founder. There will be something interesting which I will learn. And for that, you need to have humility. And once you grasp that information from that founder, only then you can pay it back to that founder. So I think unless you are not doing this, I don't think a VC can be a good mentor. So in my opinion, this is also like most of the VCs cannot create good value for a founder. They Yeah, they so like founders are the opportunity for them. They raise money from someone else so that they can invest in opportunities, so that they can earn money for themselves and repay the money back to their investors, right? So it's a plain concept. And the best way to do it is to really get to know the founder and the team, if you are in early stage, really well. And for that, you need to have to spend time. But if you only focusing on the very hard mechanics, then you can't mentor without, and then you can't expect those kind of returns. So it requires genuine hard work. So VCs are going into mechanization, metrics, without understanding the different dynamics of different business model. And I think that's where they're missing. Like, imagine, what is the biggest turn off? I try never to do it when I was a VC, but now I have more empathy for a founder. Like, if you are meeting a founder first time and you're keeping your camera off, uh, you know and it doesn't make sense. So like, then it shows that how you can keep your camera off even though you're meeting first time virtually. Like, you want to invest in this founder, how you can keep your camera off. So yeah, so
So
I,
I
I
mean, it's really good that you point out some of these nuances. I'm just going to, touch a little bit more on the VC side. I promise the conversation is not VC, but you're bringing some really exciting things up. Um, there is this string along that happens these days, right? Wherein a VC sees a founder, like, if when you're speaking to a founder, gut feeling, whether you're going to make an investment or not. You just know. Let's be honest. Before you even take them to that strenuous point of due diligence or whatever it is, you know whether this is a business that you know enough, a market that you know enough, that you want to actually have honest conversation with the founder. Whether you where you want to take the conversation to. But in Africa, there seem to be this stringing along game that happens. You will not invest in this founder, but then you keep having 5 15 minutes meetings consistently with them, and then you just ghost them. You never come back to them and say, "Oh, sorry, we will not be moving forward." Like you just ghost them, and then the founder, and this happens in the majority, by the way. And then the founder keeps spending time and time and time, because raising money is also a full-time job. It's very consuming, it's distracting for the founder. They are not building their business as much as they are not focusing on the business as much as they would like to. And then you're just stringing them along. What is the moral? What is the moral precedent or the moral backing for a behavior like that? And why do VCs do it?
So I can definitely share why it can happen. But I think there is one thing which is the sincerity in that particular individual who is talking to that different founders. The sincerity will always be visible. So mistakes can happen. Everyone is human being, but like even when I was a VC, like we reviewed 400, 500 pitch decks, right? We talked to multiple founders. A lot of time you forget, you generally forget, like you would forget anything, right? So most of the time you generally forget, but the sincerity, okay, as soon as the founder replied or asked, oh damn, I forgot to reply to this person, let me quickly get into this, that if that sincerity is there, that sincerity will be visible also from the, like you asked this very interesting question, that a VC usually knows, and there's a gut feeling, those is a biasness, but a gut feeling that okay, this founder is good. Similarly, a founder also sees the same level of sincerity in that VC, or whether this VC or that person he's talking to is that sincere enough, is that mechanical, is that, so that understanding in both the sides, it's not just one side. So like if the sincerity is there, right, in that particular VC, like even if you forget, the founder will come back to you, right? Because that founder will generally want to raise money from you because you are a nice person. But if you are pure mechanical and founders have two, three options already, then the founder will not reach out to you most of the time. Founder will continue to raise with others. But if founder is in completely need and there is no option, of course he will reach back to you anyway, because that's the game, right? That's where the ego comes in that whole ecosystem. But if there is a nice founder and have solid background and have solid network, uh, good backing in terms of the traction and the product and all of that, that founder will not even want to raise money from you. Those founders become picky. So as you see that those companies who start doing really well, they don't raise randomly from random VCs anymore. They would choose, and that is where it becomes very important. So it can happen, but that sincerity has to be there from that VC side.
Okay. No, sincerity, you have to be there. And let's explore that sincerity a little bit. When you and I had a conversation and I asked you about why did you decide to build a company, or taking this huge problem on. And the reason why I'm emphasizing on the word huge is because logistics is a massive market globally, not only in Africa, not only in Asia, but globally, right? And it's also one of the most challenging to actually fix. What are you doing as Shiprazor, and why do you think you'll be able to fix Africa logistics problem starting from South Africa, Kenya, and Mauritius?
Yeah, thanks, Siddhi, for this question. So Shipraiser, so I've seen the model like us. So we are an aggregator, right? So one thing which I've been focusing on is not to have an asset. I think there are so many companies already have assets and which are underutilized in terms of the last mile delivery or the middle mile delivery, whatnot. My thought was that how I can bring all of those fragmented entities and the markets all together in one platform and provide the visibility, accessibility, right, to the even the small customer who wants to deliver something from South Africa to anywhere in South Africa, from Kenya to anywhere in Kenya, or from anywhere in the world from these two countries, like export, right? And this is where my focus was been like. If there is already a FedEx, of course, why would I build a FedEx? If there's already a DHL, why would I build a DHL? Doesn't make sense. But in some case, DHL is better. In some case, FedEx is better. How? What if I can show this thing to the customer? Okay, for this particular delivery, DHL might be better, or this particular delivery, FedEx might be better. So I'm providing the decision and accessibility to that end customer, and the seamlessness of the order flow, like order coming from Shopify, WooCommerce. So this is where my focus is, like no asset, light asset, focus a lot on three things: uh, technology, product. So like our product, I should not say this, that like I'm proud, but I'm not in a proud in the way that I won't take the feedback, but I'm proud in a way that we constantly changing and constantly improving it, and I love it. Like I love that part a lot in my whole work. Second thing is customer, merchants, like those businesses who really needs it, so the ability to get to them, talk to them, that thing. And third thing is to provide that support if they have an issue, right? So I just need to focus on these two things. So we are very customer focused, customer centric organization. We are not at all on ground doing thing organization, so like that allow us to bring everything together. And you mentioned that logistics is a global problem, but also we are global individuals these days. So I'm constantly in touch with the best logistic companies in India, best logistic companies in Europe, keep on having conversation with them, how they have solved it. So like if someone has already did it in a way which we can do it in different geography, why not to do it, right? Why to reinvent the wheel and save effort and the whole cost? If so so ability to talk to the people and leaders around the world in that ecosystem, figuring out what is working best in different corners and trying to bring it together in like solving for Africa, that's where my focus is. And I think I did have that network, I did have that capability, technical capability to do that. It's just the amount of hours I have to work every day. I think that's it.
Which is the exciting part. Let's go to Esther. Esther, do you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, his last line is the hours of work he has to put in every day, which brings me to my question. How are you managing yourself? How are you managing your home with the amount of work you have to do to make sure that you're constantly as relevant as you are? What are you doing to stay mentally sane? How are you managing work and managing family? How are you managing work and managing your health? That's very important to me because I know you're solving a global problem, but it's more important. What is more important is your health. So tell us a little bit about how you're managing that side.
Yeah, if you ask this question from a wife, answer might be different. uh, but from my side, I think there are three aspects which are very important. One is your founder life in itself, your professional founder life. Second is your health, and third is your family. If any of the things, these are very three important pillars, if any of the things falls apart, other things will not happen. Simple.
True.
And then there is no balance. So if I, even if I say that find a balance, there's no balance. So one thing is that the acceptability, uh, and that conversation with your family members that it is going to be unbalanced life, and I need support. I need to be on the receiving side. uh, I will be very less on the giving side. But if you give me give me this opportunity for these 1 or 2, 3, 4 years, I promise I will return. I will be on the giving side a lot. So like having that kind of understanding with your family, and once your family is very strong and supportive, I promise you, like solving problems in a founder life is far more easier than solving problems in family. Like family positivity gives you so much power. Like if you have, like, my wife is amazing, so like the way she supports me, that is so important. Then you have the energy to go out and solve the problem. But if your family is not all right, then you are distracted man, like you can't solve the problem. You are in fact dangerous in the market. You probably do accidents, right? So it's very important to have that thing sorted. And then the health. And health is something which is like for people like me, It does not come naturally. Like I have to consciously made an effort to go to the gym. Then I miss it. Then my wife will push me. Now you have to go to gym. You don't have an option. Do yoga, do meditation, do so I come from a I've been practicing spiritual practices. Like I practice Buddhism for many years. I've not been practicing very actively in last few years, but that those deep spiritual practices which I've done for many years does help me a lot. So it gives me a lot of clarity about who I am. As a self realization, self awareness is very like decent level in my life, and that does help me to sometimes flip the switch very quickly. Okay, today I have to focus on health. Today I have to focus on family. I have to. So that that understanding comes from that spirituality. So I think it's there's no formula, there's no solution, and the most important thing is the acceptance that it is going to be unbalanced. That's what you have chosen, but you have to have this conversation with your family that you have chosen this and you need support, and
I
be open
I
about
love
it.
that. I think that's the most honest and very frank response I've ever gotten. Um, the imbalance exists because when you hear work-life balance, I never really believed in it. I believe that you can maintain some level of balance, but I don't believe that, except your work is your life, that's when there might be a little bit of control where you have control. But if you're doing a 9 to 5, you don't have so much control. So I love what you said about speaking to your family and getting their support. I mean, that's so important, and letting them know that this is going to be the hardest, maybe 1 to 5 years of my life. Just get ready, support me, And I also love the part where you gave them a promise. I love the promise part where you said, I promise you. And I know you're keeping your promise. I mean, how many years have you been in the game? And are you keeping your promise? Because I have one more question before I hand over to Steve. So it's been how many years have you been with Shiprazor? And in keeping your promise to your family, how has that been?
Right. So, uh, if I understand your correct question correctly, you asked like how many years I've been running Shipraiser, right? So I
Yeah.
right.
In
So
respect to your promise, right? You said 1 to 4 years. I'm big on that. Yeah, 1 to 4 years, and I'm going to come back and so in respect to your promise, have you kept your promise? And how's that going?
I think it's going in better direction. In the beginning, it was very difficult. Very difficult. So like when you have very less number of people in your team, you literally have to do everything. And one thing which was not the best for my side is that I was a solo founder. Uh, so I was a solo founder because I could not find someone uh, as passionate as I was for this and can so like I was open for having a co-founder, but I didn't need to. So need was not there, want was there. So like I was not uh, in a situation that, oh, I can't do tech, so I need to have. So I was not in that situation. I come from very diverse background, sales, so like a lot of things I could just manage from myself and have hire people and then get like give them the direction to do things. So like I didn't have a need, but I had a want, and I couldn't find that same level of passionate person. So that's why. So what does it mean that my life was very consumed since the beginning of Shiprazor, like extremely consumed. Like sometimes my wife biggest complaint is that she will call my name and it will take few seconds or minutes for me to reply back. It will go into queue somewhere in my mind and then I will reply back and then she will say, oh, never mind, it's already done. So so that level of consumption and imbalanced life you would lead in the beginning, but more you hire people, more you keep on delegate, it keeps on getting better. And I think, I don't know, uh, yeah, when it will happen, we will have kids and we'll have whatever. So I think my wife will also get busy someday more than me in terms of at family. She's also working, so it does helps us. But yeah, the real answer, 2 3, there's no answer to that. I think it will only happen after ship racer. To be very honest.
Okay, fine. So my final question for now will be, what has been your most challenging, the most challenging aspect of building Shiprazor? From the beginning till now, you've mentioned how difficult it was in the beginning. But right now, if you're supposed to rank it, what would you say is the most challenging moment for you? And how have you been able to manage it?
It's a very good question because I think about it a lot. So I think the most challenging is not uh, tech, is not sales, is not even fundraising. It's the most challenging is to have the right people in the team. And why is the most challenging? Because you don't know that person. And even sometimes you don't know how you are going to work it together, right? And so like as someone would invest in a startup, a founder invests in his team, and founder also have limited resources. So if I am having someone in my team, a new person, it means I'm investing, and then return has to come. Everyone who works in a company, everyone has to give back the return, then the salary they are earning. Very simple mathematics you need to run this business, right? If someone is consuming more and giving less to the business will fall. Simple. uh, so ability to find those people, uh, and then get them. Yeah, that is, I think, is the challenging, most challenging part for me. I don't hire very easily till I completely believe. So I spent a lot of time, human time, personal time, with even the hire important hires I do uh, in the team. I don't just hire based on the CV or the previous company, or I don't care about most of it. I care about the skills and things they can do, and get into the personal level. Like I spend time, like what a VC should do with a founder. I try to do it with a new important hire I do in a company, and that takes a lot of time. And sometimes they're like, oh, this guy is not making a decision, because like I'm not making decision because I still want to know you more. It's important hiring for me. So yeah, so I think that is the most challenging thing for me.
So
See,
yeah,
yeah.
So sorry, let me
Okay.
just I'm going to follow on the questions from leadership style, just because you mentioned that. A lot of founders, as you know, as you rightly stated, have limited resources. They don't have the privilege to hire the, the most skilled person in the market because, frankly, they can't really afford paying. Some of them can't really afford paying the market rate for these people, especially if you're looking for really really a high skill. How are you able to balance that motivation against the resources that you have? Because no, on one side, you need the person to feel motivated enough to come join your company, and that motivation, in most cases, let's be honest, apart from the importance of what you're building, they have to, feed their family. It's not their company. You don't have the money to actually pay them, but at the same time, you're taking incredibly slow to hire them. How do you manage not losing a candidate that is really, really, could be really, really outstanding, but also not having the resource to actually pay them a market price? How do you make those decisions, and how do you balance them?
Yeah, so it's very easy. Like I believe a lot on references. Uh, so if I that depends between if I'm meeting someone out of the blue on online, or if someone comes from a reference. So I do give preference to reference, because there is someone's neck in the line, and it is always better than, like, you can be very lucky in the market, but it's gambling for me in the, like, especially in the early stage, right? So I don't do gambling. I like to do short things. Startup in itself is a high risk. You don't want to take risk within the risk. Uh, so so like, just to give you an example, one of the backend developer I recently hired, he came from very strong reference, 11 o'clock in the night, and I rolled out a offer next morning 7 a.m. It was very quick, because it was short. There was no doubt I needed it. I got a very strong reference from someone I absolutely trust, and that person is not from a friend perspective, from the skill perspective trust. And then it was clear. But then in the market, some roles like sales was one of the role. I need to hire, and I've been talking, and people are talkers. People talk. They will sell, especially salespeople. Their job is to sell, right? So they can easily sell their profile. So they would sell you the world, but then you have to spend time. So if someone is really like, what I also don't do is that I only hire quality people. So what does it mean? I don't waste money in those lot of less skilled people. So like if you've seen a lot of startups, once they raise money, we have raised some money, you can hire five people, right? So my thought is that instead of hiring five people, I will hire one person. So there his combined salary or her combined salary can be all those five people, right? But I will hire one rather than the five. So that's how I do it. So I do give good salaries, but because I hire less people. So that's how I manage it. I don't manage it that okay, I need to have so many people. And the good thing is that if someone leaves, I can still do their job. It's not a scalable solution, but you need to be. Someone told me you need to be a cockroach in Africa, not a unicorn. So you need to be able to survive no matter what.
Hmm. So
So
let's talk about survivability. You currently operate in Kenya, in South Africa. Logistics is a little bit different in these two countries. I mean, that's just the fact. There's a lot of like different issues that you have to deal with. How do you navigate the two markets, and what are some of your prime indicator for venturing into new markets?
I'm not going to go into new market very anytime soon. I need to stabilize these two countries. But these two countries, I had good network. I had some good channel partners, so I could get into the customer's store very quickly. That was one thing. But then there are nuances of the market, like logistically. So I, in fact, use the uh, something different in Kenya. I would put it into Kenya. Something different in South Africa. I would put it into Kenya. That in fact helps me sell more and use each other name. You know that okay, you see in South Africa this is happening, and people like it. So in fact, I use it rather than feel oh my god it's two different problem. And our product is also becoming quite acceptable to the multiple geographies, and that is the beauty, like because we started with two market, which is not usual. Like people usually start with only one market. Like we almost started with the two markets, and the way we are evolving our product is quite global, and that is where, so in fact it's giving us a strength. But mostly like logistic problems are quite similar. There are some positives and negatives nuances, but mostly the behavior, like few years behind, few years ahead in terms of e-commerce as a economy evolution. But most of it is quite same. And in Kenya is my Indian experience helping me a lot. In Kenya is quite similar to how India used to function back in the days. So a lot of existing learnings helping me achieving that.
Oh, let's go back to learning. Um, there's a lot of when e-commerce started really scaling in the continent, it actually put a lot of pressure in logistics. In fact, it was actually at that period that a lot of people start looking about how seriously um, fault, how much of a fault we have in our supply chains, more or less. What are your predictions for e-commerce? Because most of the e-commerce companies that we have in the continent today are suffering. One of the biggest that we have, Jumia. Thank God now they're reducing their cost drastically with the appointment of a new CEO that came in and then trying to reduce their cost. But what is the overall e-commerce sector and logistics sector looking like? Because these two frankly goes hand in hand. So what is your perception? What is it looking like? What is it? Is it all doom, or is Shiprazor, companies like Shiprazor, about to change the e-commerce games and support e-commerce providers even more robustly to get everybody into profitability?
Well, everybody profitability, I don't know. Us for sure. Uh,
No,
but
that was just an extreme. That was just utopia.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think e-commerce overall is definitely growing. And you did mention a few company names, but one company usually never represents the whole economy. No matter how big is that company is, but it's still as part of the economy or the whole industry is smaller. Uh, and these companies are like quite known and they got famous and things like that. But there are so many unknown companies which are functioning in the market. And like just to give very, I can't give some numbers, but a hint. Like in South Africa, the the consumer power is just next level. Like Shein, Temu, these Chinese e-commerce companies, they are flooding the market. I know the numbers, how many parcels a day coming in. It's in thousands. I can't give the exact number, but in thousand. It means people are buying, right? It means there's a market. That's why the people, global companies on the world wants to come in Africa, right? It means there's a market. There's things that we just need to maybe do things a little bit better, right? And not hire 100 people as soon as we raise money. Hire slowly and then build the team. Just side thing, but what I'm trying to say here is that market is there. I don't think that market is not a market is in fact growing, and there are datas around it. There are, yeah, billions of dollars has been spent on just on ads via Timu to make certain things happen in South Africa. So huge market, very high basket value compared to, if I compare to India. Like Indian market is huge, but like the delivery value or average delivery value of one delivery is like $1, $1.5. Average delivery value of in Africa is $5 to $6 per delivery, right? Average delivery cost. So 5 to 6 orders in India is equal to one order in Africa or in South Africa, Kenya, whatever. So it's already 5 times difference just in there, right? So like there is a big market. And like our system is built on a principle of collaboration with multiple delivery companies, with multiple uh, you know stakeholders in the whole ecosystem, e-commerce, payment gateways, delivery companies. And that's how we like to function. So you like to partner with a lot of people. So I think it's going in the right direction, and there is a big hope, and there is a it's the right time. In fact, it is like South Africa right now is the best time, not the right time.
Yeah. So, but South Africa is a much more advanced ecosystem, and that's just the truth. And spending power is higher than most places in Africa. So let's come to Kenya. That the same assessment that you've just made in South Africa. What is their assessment for the Kenyan market?
Kenya market will take a little bit time. E-commerce, still a lot of learning needs to be there. Uh, there are some really amazing innovations like M-Pesa, ability to pay cash on delivery. So cash on delivery is a big thing in Kenya, and not a very big thing in South Africa. It's all prepaid orders, so it's much more easy to handle. Cash on delivery becomes difficult to handle. We are solving some of those problems by building some automated pay on delivery, like scam-free features. Like people do a lot of scams because of cash on delivery features, impacts e-commerce businesses. And also most of the business which I've seen in e-commerce happening mostly in Nairobi, and that needs to go into the Kenya level. Like if you've seen in South Africa, major cities buys a lot, not just like one city. In Kenya, just one city is buying a lot, and then it becoming too much fragmented. People are not thinking Kenya level. So I think some it's growing, upcoming, very small compared to South Africa, and it comes to e-commerce market. But it is getting there, and if we just hang in there and keep on educating, it will also evolve like any other country.
Yeah, but the education part is usually the hardest. Changing the mindset, um, but it takes a lot of time, burns a lot of cash. So what is the smartest way to go around that education. It's a fundamental part
Yeah.
of anything, by the way, but it seems to be one of the biggest challenge also in the continent today. And again, let's just use the Kenyan markets to break this down, right? Let's move this South Africa. Let's leave the South Africa market again. More advanced ecosystem, a lot more education, a lot more openness to technology and things like that, especially in big cities in SA. But let's go back to the Kenyan market. How easy and well, I don't think it's easy. Education is very expensive, and a lot of the founders just don't really have that money to drive that education themselves. And you and I know, this might be a controversial question for you, but you and I know that there's not a lot of homogeneity amongst players in the market because everybody seems to be competing all the time. So it's not like Shiprazor will go and say, I'm going to join Market Force 360 so we can come together and then do an education campaign.
Yeah. So education. See, education is when you ask about the education. So education is a two-side flow. One needs to be in the receiving side. One needs to be on the giving side. Right. There is a one assumption here which was made was that if you give, there are people who are ready to receive. The problem lies in whether people are ready to receive or not, as well, apart from the giving side, the resources for the giving side, right? So whenever, so like what we, with my experience, that when there is a need for a particular customer to receive the education or to receive the knowledge of how to make things better, the operations, delivery, all of that seamlessness, that customer is usually a little bit open. However, because the overall ecosystem is not thinking the way it should, it will think, and haven't evolved that much, the time taken to educate takes a little bit longer. It's like in the school, if you go, if kids don't want to learn, no matter who's the teacher, they can't learn, right? There's no education pass on. So the need, it comes out from the need basis and the motivation basis. So like that's how you will see some of the merchants, some merchants really want to focus on digitization. They will go even extra mile to see how we can make things better. Some would just like to move, keep on doing things the way it is working, manual, operational, tedious. The things are working fine, their employees are working, so the owners are chilled. They do feel face problems, but they're not thinking far ahead. But then you spend time with them, you show them one different world, then you show them another. So it takes more time to. So the these kind of the second kind of categories of the kind of merchants are more in Kenya this moment, because the overall ecosystem have not evolved. So that is where the ripple effect comes in. When whole ecosystem evolves like that, then the time taken and the need for education, that changes.
That changes.
Uh, so
Absolutely.
that is a ever going process, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let me go move back to Esther because I have so many questions, and I feel like if I don't
Hmm.
stop, I'll keep talking about logistics the whole day. But let me get Esther to ask you a question.
So, Sahil, I have listened to you speak, and I'm taking us back to the very first thing you said. As someone who became a founder and then a VC, you said the things you did it because you could. I think people listening to you would see, what does this guy mean because he could? I mean, there are stories around founders who are, I don't know, the founder stories are usually very dramatic, traumatic, filled with a lot of theatrics, like, oh, I was this and now I'm this. And you just came to say you did everything you did because you could. Could you just take us back to that? Because would it be that some founders, you had a better head start? Because I know you had mentioned that you had an engineering background and you think you were ready with the basic things. But I don't believe that every founder that has the basic things is actually ready for entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is laced with a lot of uncertainties. Like you rightly mentioned, the challenge you're dealing with right now around hiring. It's not a challenge, but it's just because of the way you feel about your business. So you're careful with the kind of energies you bring into your business. So my question here is this: can you tell an entrepreneur who is watching this podcast right now, this minute, explain from the point of the fact that you know that entrepreneurship is laced with uncertainties, explain from the point that you know that we all have different set skills and there's different other set skills that we need to build our business. With this context, explain what you mean by because you could. Because I know that there are founder stories that they met they met a very dark space. They hit a brick wall and they had to meander to find their way out. Are you saying that you didn't have any of these experiences, that you did all of these things because you could, and it has been a fantastic story ever since? So I'm just saying because for when I heard that, I had a lot of questions to hear when you said because I could, I did all of these things because I could. I mean, because a lot of us can. In fact, a lot of us did. A lot of us had the skills. So what made this statement, this bold, emphatic statement, what makes it different?
The one liner for me personally is the clarity. Uh,
Okay.
that there was a clarity in my mind at that. I've done startups before. I failed before. I have not like none of the startup were like failed. Like I always earned money in most of the things businesses I've done. I closed it because I wanted to move to South Africa. There's a different story, but I could see that would be big challenge to scale it and all of that. Would not become that big a company, and that could have already foresee. But I think this time, and in the beginning, whenever I did startup before, like my some of my skills early days, because I was an engineer, so I would not like to do like finance part. I would not know how to raise money, right? I didn't know a lot of that part, and then I was like in my early 20s, and then figuring out all of that, talking to here and there. And one thing I learned that best way to learn is by talking to the right people, because like in 1 hour you can learn about the 20 years of experience, which you can't live another 20 years of experience for that person, right? So it's very easy. That's why podcasts are really amazing to listen to as well. I listen to a lot of podcasts almost every day. So i think for me, I said I could because there was a clarity of what I want to do, how I want to do, and why I want to do, right? The how I want to do was always pivoting. Like I did this way, then realize, oh, it's not really the best way to do how I want. Then I pivot a little bit, then I pivot a little bit, then I pivot a little bit. That always happens. So how always changes, but I had enough clarity in my how that okay, I will go this. And I always had a lot of setbacks. Like in last many months, I had a lot of setbacks. Yeah, but sometimes those Instagram reels helps. I would listen to it, and then it will come. Just keep going, and I will pick because I want to hear those things for myself, right? Okay, I just need to keep going. Things will be fine. I just yeah. I don't take blow up risk. I don't immediately take risk out of fear. So till I don't know things, I will not take a decision on that. I will know things and then like not take blow up
Hmm.
risk. Like hire people randomly because you
Mhm.
can't do that thing is a blow up risk. Like try to get to know. If you like, I'm not saying go and do it. Like you can't do the coding. You can't learn coding in 3 months and then build a tech, right? But know
Mhm.
enough to ask the questions so that whoever is coming is doing the right job. How would you know he's doing the right job? You you
Hmm.
need to have the ability to ask those questions to that person. So I think that is why I said I could, because logically, aptitude point of view, some network point of view, which I was able to build, things were there. Like when I come to South Africa, first time on the whole continent, I only knew one person. It's only like 4 or 5 years, right? Now I know so many people on the continent, because there was a dedicated focus on networking. Like I had a target of meeting 2 to 3 new people every week. I used to maintain a diary. So that opened up a lot of doors for me. So like, it's not that I come from a my father is a industrialist, runs the whole industry and had the money and then come, and it's not like that. I figured it out. But then you find those ways where yeah, 80/20, like you spend 20% effort and you get 80%, and you try to keep on finding those kind of ways.
Sahil, here
I
is
think
oh,
See, I think that makes it very relatable and that makes it very easy to understand, right?
yeah.
Because when I heard it, I was like, wow, I need to get to know what this guy knows that I don't know. But listening to you speak, clarity, networking, learning, taking detours. I mean, it's beautiful. So thank you for that perspective. Over to you, CD.
Yeah, Sahil, this. So, firstly, thank you for coming. I know it's we are way past the time that we scheduled for this call. Just because I know a bit about the space, and I've experienced it as a customer. I've experienced it as a customer, and I know how frustrating the waiting has can be sometimes from a customer perspective, and how hectic it is. But I've also experienced that supporting a startup as an operator, well, a consulting operator in that space. So I also know some of the challenges that is happening on that side. However, here's a very interesting question that I have. It's a trick question. If you were not doing logistics and you have not done computer engineering, and as a child, you were going to follow your dream, one of your childhood's dream, what would you have been?
I wanted to join army instead of my nation. Uh, that I
What,
wanted to
what,
do
what,
since I
what
was
was so fascinating about the army that you wanted to become?
uniform, the pride, uh, the pride in family members and parents, the lifestyle. Uh, you know, yeah, I wanted to be a pilot, but then I realized I used to play a lot of video games. Then I very early decided, oh no, pilot is not possible. Then army. So yeah, so it was to join army, and I gave like I did apply for army. Yeah, but they're interesting. I think there's a little bit of destiny does play a little bit role. There's like both things. Like it's a very separate conversation. It will take another few hours. Let's not go there. But yeah, I think yeah, but army would be the answer.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, here you go. So, we've just spoken to Sahil, the guy who's solving the African logistics problem by connecting Korea and people who have products to deliver in South Africa and in Kenya, and who would have become would have been serving in the army just because he really really love the discipline and love the uniform, but who is doing all of it because he could. um Sahil, before we go, do you have any final thing you want to say? But Esther, do you have any final question for Sahil before we come to?
We always have an ask. We always have an ask on Pitching Africa when we're about signing off.
Mhm.
I think I'm just going to do one ask here for the show, not because I'm going to meet Sahil behind the camera to have an ask, but here on Pitching Africa, I want to ask, well, when are you coming to Nigeria? Because, we have a lot of these kinds of problems and we need you. I know you're trying to have your feet settled in and plugged into Kenya and all of that, but do you have Nigeria by any shape or form in your plan in the nearest future? Come to Nigeria. That's my ask.
I I will come to Nigeria when someone will invite to their wedding. I do want to attend Nigerian weddings and want to wear Nigerian outfit. I love that. that with hat and then the whole thing. I love that. So I think that would be my first entry point to Nigeria when that will happen. I was invited for being a speaker and things like that, but the visa and all of that was tricky. But I would love to come to Nigeria. I have a lot of friends in Nigeria. Lagos, like I have a lot of friends in Lagos, so I will not be alone for sure. I will do party a lot. Yeah, but I do want to come. And business wise, if there is a business use case, we will come for sure. I mean, if business has to flow itself, so yeah, yeah. And there are a lot of people doing the similar thing what we are trying to do in Nigeria as well. So if we see
Yeah,
some collaboration, something, I will definitely love to explore. But for now, the focus is here. But the wedding is the way to get to Nigeria.
no problem. I'll keep that in mind. City, I'm done. Thank you so
Well,
much, Sahil, for your time here. Interesting
well,
conversation. Always.
yeah,
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 take
there
care.
we have it, everyone. We've been having a wonderful conversation with the founder and future army man, Sahil Affriya, of Shiprazor. It's been such a privilege to have you on the call today, Sahil. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
Connect from Africa.
Thank you,
We,
Sahil.
we do wish you all the best in your journey.